The Vortex Coalition, or VoCo for short, was a Minecraft anarchy group with the intention to make 2v2t a better place. The group was founded with the hope to grow against the widespread toxic environment of 2v2t and create a chill environment for the people to work together and support their skills, much like my modern group Insignia did. The group at some point was the longest running and largest group on 2v2t while having little to no activity. The idea of the group was a good concept, but the leadership and environment grew a corrupt staff that eventually brought the group to its downfall. In this episode of Psy, I explain what happened to VoCo after dozens of their members left and the group eventually disbanded. I got interviews with fellow ex-VoCo members regarding their opinions on the progress of the group. The group disbanded on March 10th, 2021, and there is a lot to talk about here. Before I jump into the recent events, we need to take a look at the history of VoCo from my perspective. Welcome to Psy. This is the End of VoCo. I joined the Vortex Coalition on the 18th of January 2020. I was fairly new to 2v2t after coming from a different anarchy server late the previous year. I didn't know much about 2b, so VoCo was a good place for me to learn about the server and contribute to the community. But eventually, as I grew to learn more about the server, I realized that VoCo was not taken seriously on the server. However, Coltsnid, the leader of the group, kept enforcing the mentality that VoCo was always on top, hence the oversaid and untrue phrase, "the state of VoCo is good." I enjoyed the time I spent with other members of the group, but I saw the corruption in the leadership and eventually couldn't dismiss it as just rumors or a one-time thing. Doxing happened way too often and forced screen sharing became the norm. Coltsnid became paranoid of his own members, and as a result, his members became fearful of him. From mid-March to mid-April, I started a base consisting of 4 other VoCo members, myself, and a soon-to-be Imperium member. The base eventually evolved to be a team, Team Corona. As the days went by, the number of people in the group grew smaller as tensions arose between specific members. Nonetheless, we continued our base and duped what materials we had with the active dupe at the time. However, the vibe of the group was soon interrupted by VoCo as we were assigned the job to dupe VoKits for VoCo because we were one of the few people that knew the active dupe at the time. Even though we were frustrated that we had to pause our projects, we started working. Soon though, the staff member Nimitz DM'd me telling me that he was overworked in VoCo and was frustrated with not getting a promotion despite his efforts. He was telling me that he felt like he needed something different on the server, so I felt bad for him and told him that he could join Team Corona and come to our base. To my surprise, all he did was join the Discord server to find evidence of some of our members being quote-unquote anti-VoCo. He then gave punishments to those members and turned us on each other. That day, I was dragged into executive voice call where Coltsnid told me that if I disbanded Team Corona, I would be promoted in VoCo. Thinking that Team Corona members could move on in VoCo, I agreed. This is what ended the group. Our own members destroyed the base and neither got banned or left VoCo. I let Nimitz in thinking that he needed a different place than VoCo, but he told me that he quote-unquote bended the truth to get information of suspicious members. This is what made me lose my faith in VoCo, as they destroyed a base and friendships with it to supposedly better their group. A little over a month later, I was removed from the group after inciting. It's been over 300 days since then. A month after I got banned, I founded the group Insignia with former executive Adriano 1804. The original intent of the group was to incite VoCo, but as our influence grew, we became bigger than that and had better things to focus on. The group thrived for a few months until we eventually disbanded after I took a break from 2v2t and the staff didn't keep activity. After that, I simply stopped paying attention to VoCo as its influence died out over time. However, Insignia wasn't the last time that I took a look at VoCo. On March 5th, 2021, senior executive and longtime member iZac left the Vortex Coalition after 3 years. iZac had contributed to VoCo for that long time and had created most, if not all, of the infrastructure. When he left, he took down all bots he created in the Discord server, including the VoCoin economy and both of VoCo's websites. Then, after he left, he posted a statement on his website that usually hosts info about his paid hacked client, Rootnet. Then, another longtime member, Stronkfish, left and used his Discord server called Scharnhorst to host former VoCo members. Following this, 25 other VoCo members either left the Discord or got banned for being related to Scharnhorst. There were 10 people in the Scharnhorst Discord that were still in VoCo and had ranks, and some of those were giving information to Scharnhorst members. Before VoCo disbanded, over 50 former VoCo members were taking refuge in the Scharnhorst Discord server, and Scharnhorst is still up and active to this day. With only 4 staff members left including the leader, no bots or website, little to no remaining active members, lack of influence on every server they play, and insider uncertainty, VoCo was in a lot of trouble. This serious conflict eventually led to them disbanding. But let's take a look at what made this exodus happen that eventually caused the group to disband. VoCo had a Discord bot called Bystander Triggers that they put on idle Discord accounts and would park in enemy Discords. When members of VoCo show activity in there, they would be put on a list and could get demoted or banned. VoCo's distrust for its own members was severe and is shown in my interview with former VoCo member Rose Gold, who was banned from VoCo before the disband.
The real magic of VoCo was lost to me, as I said in my document, when they tried to impose VoCo TOS in servers that they didn't own. Essentially, I was mad because I told them, I came out with this rule that was like, if you have VoCo members at all in your own personal servers, you're required to adhere to the VoCo TOS in them, or you can't, or you'll get banned from VoCo. So essentially saying no EOVs, no, you have to adhere strictly to the rules that we set for VoCo. So no bad mouthing, no FUD. And I said no. And they were like, what do you mean? And I said, look at this list. And I invited them and I showed them my member list. I had like 3 quote unquote EOVs that were people that left of their own volition after seeing and didn't go spread stuff. And they were classified as EOVs for some reason, even though they weren't really talking. They just told people who asked like why they left. They shared their opinion. They didn't actively like seek out and DM people and, you know, do normal quote unquote EOV stuff. And so they got mad at me for that. They're like, well, you have to adhere to VoCo TOS. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I said, but I'd price this server at about $300. And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, if you want to have your rules, you got to be the owner, right? And I'm only willing to sell it. I'm not really willing to sell it, but if you're adamant on imposing your rules, then you need to be the owner. Because you don't own me and you don't own anything that I produce. If you want to own anything I produce, you need to sign a contract with me. You need to enter into a legal contract, or else everything you tell me I don't have to listen to and you can't do shit about it. And they didn't like that.
They were so scared of like these 4 members, like that they had to impose their own TOS onto your server.
Yeah. So if you didn't follow it, you faced repercussions in VoCo, which is absolutely mind-blowing to me that you would even dare ask me to change my server for you that I've worked years to build up a member count on and build and make it my own and make it a home for me and my friends. You dare to ask me to follow your fucking rules in it? Absolutely not.
So it's just your own community server, nothing like related to Anarchy, and then there's just these 4 people that just are in the server that VoCo doesn't like, and they tried to impose that upon you.
Yes.
Rose Gold was an owner of a private server, unrelated to Anarchy or 2b2t, with hundreds of members. There were only 3 people in that server that VoCo did not like, and they tried to make him enforce VoCo rules on a completely separate server. VoCo grew inactive on 2b2t, likely because of the fact that their members, who were most often not experienced, would not buy priority queue consistently. VoCo already had a Constantian division, but eventually their 2b2t influence died and they moved from 2b to 9b9t and Constantium practically entirely. Previously to this, VoCo recruiters had a policy to not accept anyone if they said their main server was Constantium. Colton cared so much about their influence and PR that he made 2 36x36x36 vortices and claimed that he took over 9b. Colt's behavior similar to this is also expressed in Rose Gold's interview.
I got rid of my prio for 2b because I didn't want to pay for it. And so I had to get on Const to do the activity check. And I didn't have anything on Const, didn't have any obsidian to make a vortex. So I called Snow Slushy and I said, hey brother, you got to come to spawn and like give me some obsidian so I can make a quick vortex and take a picture. He's like, okay. And Snow met me at spawn and brought me a kit and some obby, and I made a vortex. And I was talking about that. I told someone, they were like, someone asked me, they were like, dude, you made the activity check by like 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I know. And they were asking me, what'd you do? And I said, well, I got Snow to help me. And Colt jumps in and says, dude, that is the power of VoCo, and like starts spewing VoCo propaganda about how strong we are when we work together. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't fucking talking about the strength of VoCo or other stupid LARP bullshit. I was just talking about like some funny shit that happened. You don't got to jump in with like the strength of your group.
And also the fact that, like, he's literally flexing the fact that you evaded being removed from the group.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand.
Coltsnid would always push the VoCo on top nonsense everywhere.
And I got banned from all VoCo and VoCo related Discords just for being in this server. So someone saw that I was in here and got banned, and it was Nimitz.
Consistently, there has been one staff member that served VoCo a little bit too much, Nimitz. Nimitz's dedication to VoCo went beyond the desire for friendship within the group and came to getting a promotion only. An example of this comes from former VoCo higher-up and moderator and friend of mine ArcInferno. In all of his time in the group, he grew what he thought was a friendship between him and Nimitz as they were both at the same level. ArcInferno eventually DM'd Nimitz about private and personal things going on in his life, but it turns out that it did not end up being private.
And it's literally just iZac saying, Nimitz is streaming your DMs to Colt. And sure enough, I open up on Alt with better Discord, and I see him streaming in executive chat to Colt all of my fucking DMs. Like 8,000 messages of DMs that we've accumulated over the past 2 years.
Dude, he's
All
not
to
even in VoCo anymore. Why is he even
He's not even in there anymore. I
Why does he even
don't know.
care?
And this was all like private stuff of you like just talking to him because you guys were close.
Yeah.
God,
Like,
what the fuck?
when he leaked his camera, immediately, like, the first thing he did was message me on Snapchat, like, hey, holy shit, I just leaked my face in the Discord, I'm such an idiot, and I'm like, it'll be okay, no one's gonna circulate that shit, that's pretty personal. And then I find out that he's fucking, like, been streaming my DMs to Colt, for whatever reason. I don't know.
The lack of privacy in VoCo has been present for a long time. There is a massive history of doxing that goes pretty far back. It isn't as recent, so I won't prioritize it right now. But this problem is deeply rooted into the staff of VoCo, so it makes perfect sense that it would cause fear in the members. While the lack of privacy is one problem among staff, the way that staff and members are forced to act via the guidelines of the group are another thing entirely. I recently got the opportunity to talk to Ringiohux, an executive who left VoCo with WandaChamp, a first-class member. Take a look at this screenshot from a conversation with him and former executive Adriano1804 over 2 years ago. There are multiple things about this message that are interesting, but for now, I'll focus on the part where he says, we need to respect Colt like he's better than us, like all the executives are better than us, it sucks, and I hate it, but I want to get better, so I do it. Ringio, amongst other staff, were forced to play along Colt's wishes as they served as staff, instead of using their positions to better the group. Ringio also stated, I started to notice that Colt really wasn't doing anything for the group, he was simply trying to satisfy his ego and paranoia. Because of this, staff had no choices to stand up and give advice to the group, which is what this next section is about.
It's been 8 months and he never responded to that message. He just completely egoed me.
VoCo has a system called FUD. It stands for Fear, Uncertainty, and Doubt. While it's portrayed to be a system to identify hatred and shut down untrue comments, it's actually Coltson's way of shutting down any advice or criticism. While most groups try to grow from advice given by their members, VoCo is perfect in Coltson's eyes. He identifies any advice or constructive criticism as FUD and will not change his group to fit the members, but change the members to fit the group. This does not work for a big group like VoCo, especially under someone like Coltson's leadership. I used this same message in the previous section. Ringio says, but the thing with FUD is that it doesn't allow people to use freedom in speech, and it doesn't allow people to address certain problems. The problem with VoCo wasn't the infrastructure that was there, it was the leadership that could not admit problems. Before the disbanding and during the exodus, moderator Gappy stated this, the only reason I stayed after last week's mass exodus is because I was promised, along with Clux1 and Sal, a leadership position in the group. I personally wanted to make VoCo a group for friends to chill in, unban most people that got banned in the time that I was there, and have a totally transparent management with public votes for decisions. The last staff members to remain were promised leadership positions, but Coltsnid ended up disbanding the group. While Gappy had good intentions, Colt couldn't let that happen. This section was the #1 reason why VoCo disbanded. Colt's leadership and refusal to accept advice. A few hours before VoCo disbanded, VoCo members Gappy and Kek1 left the Vortex Coalition. Being the last 2 staff members besides Coltsnit himself, VoCo had absolutely zero infrastructure left. Salamander, the last senior executive, left VoCo prior to that. With only Coltsnit left, there was nothing that he could do to regain control of the group. So he made a private announcement stating that VoCo was disbanding due to doxing and obsession. That would make perfect sense if Coltsnit hadn't been doxed for almost 3 years. When I saw this message, I instantly knew he was lying. Colt played the victim card to make it look like VoCo was always just fine, and doxing got in the way of the group. In reality, he didn't want to admit the fact that VoCo had died completely. He didn't mention any of the members leaving, as iZac said.
Yeah, I think his docs, it was outdated. It had moved since then. And I'm not aware of any harassment that happened to him in real life. As for the statement, I think he was pushing an agenda to the end, which I don't see the point of, because he made no reference to all the people that left the group in the 2 weeks running up to that, which is purely the reason why it was made. If nobody had left, he wouldn't have disbanded the group. Like, I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that.
VoCo staff has said before that people who aren't in VoCo are obsessed individuals, but this just takes it to another level. An obsessed group of Anarchy players have been stalking me for years, working to undermine my friendships as well as VoCo, relentlessly fixated with taking down VoCo, created fake screenshots. Leaving 2v2t is the last resort I have to this. This is no longer just block game drama. This is a coordinated group of individuals who have been consistently targeting, harassing, and stalking me and my community for years. This was likely their plan all along. Cult has consistently identified people who have left or were eventually insiders as coordinated EOV attacks. However, in my case, I liked VoCo for a while and actually was dedicated to them before inciting to the Imperium. Not many people outside of Insignia joined VoCo with the end goal of inciting. The people who left or got banned simply realized VoCo was bad along the way. However, the friendships built were still good, but Colt's behavior got in the way of all of that. Not to mention the fact that Colt identified every single insider as a coordinated attack, and that it was their plan all along. That could not be further from the truth. A very large portion of the people who left, insided, or got banned were people who just didn't like the group. It's terrible and extremely dishonest to see that Colt wouldn't even mention the people leaving. VoCo has had problems with a large portion of other 2v2t groups. Because of this, Coltsnit saw VoCo members being friends with EOVs as a direct attack against the group. VoCo members who would talk to people outside of VoCo and in enemy groups would be demoted or banned quickly. Even if the other person had no interest in VoCo, Coltsnit would freak out about it and make it an immediate punishment. Coltsnit also made a rule that any current VoCo member would not be allowed to talk to any ex-member, no matter how they were removed. It didn't matter if they peacefully left or got banned, VoCo members were not allowed to speak with them or they would be demoted or banned themselves. The relations between members created a paranoia dynamic in the group. With members being eventually kicked out or leaving on a nearly daily basis, the friends of those members left as well so they weren't burdened of the guidelines or afraid from talking to their buddies. VoCo was one of the few groups to use a currency system of its primary method of ranking up. This system was called VoCoin, and it was advertised as a cryptocurrency that the members can use. VoCo, being the longest running anarchy group, was likely the first to do this, but other groups like the Imperials and Brown Men have their own more refined currencies. In fact, Browncoin has its own core application that's identical to Bitcoin. It has a token and all infrastructure that a real crypto needs. However, VoCo has a relatively small system of a Discord bot. In order to rank up, you would need to get a certain amount of VoCoin and rise through the ranks as the prices got larger. In order to get VoCoin, you could do jobs like building logos around spawn, advertising in chat, etc. But because of this system, it was easy to fake jobs and even easier to gain ranks and trust quickly. Because of this, Coltsnit had to implement another system in order to keep a sense of trust aside from the ranks, as opposed to admitting the rank system was somewhat broken. So the Credence Level system was created. Now, every VoCo member had a role showing their Credence level from 1 to 5. 1 was untrusted and 5 was extremely trusted. The problem with this system was that it assigned trust to a number, and any insider could simply check and resolve their Credence level if it was too low. Once again, Colt's paranoia impeded the progress of the group. While VoCo's event system was as easy to incite as any other group, the Credence level system made it easy for insiders to know if they were doing a good job or not. When VoCo shut down, of course VoCoin was shut down along with it. This led to hundreds of members' VoCoin disappearing in an instant. Some people had spent hundreds of dollars on these coins only for Coltsnit to shut down the group with no hope of getting their money back. This is why I suggest people to use Brown Coin as a way to transfer value on 2b2t without being charged back or forced to guess stability. There are multiple shops such as 2b2t.shop, Infinity Incursion, Jews R Us, and Shulka Road that take Brown Coin for items. Brown Coin isn't only used for buying in Anarchy servers as well. Unlike VoCoin, it's a real crypto that can't be shut down if the creator ditches it, and it can be edited by the community to keep it up and running. Because it's a real cryptocurrency, it can be traded and sold as you please. Brown Coin is also very fast, cheap, and has 100% uptime in its 9 months existence. You can even mine VertCoin with a VertCoin one-click miner and exchange it for Brown Coin to make your Anarchy experience easy. Thanks to the Brown Coin team for sponsoring this video. In conclusion, VoCo's disband was a surprise to no one and was definitely on its way when the Exodus happened. The group itself wasn't flawed, but the leadership got in the way of nearly everything. To the people I met in VoCo, thank you for the fun times in my somewhat early days of 2B. Anyways, thank you for watching, and don't commit too much to a single 2B2T group. This has been Sai.